There isn't a big standout feature like Reels that is in that position to skyrocket people's growth these days. And Reels is becoming very saturated, very competitive, seemingly feels like reach might be down, contrary to what Instagram tells us. It does feel down. The data actually says it's down. And so it is a lot harder these days.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blitz Growth. I have an amazing guest here today, which I think you're really going to love, especially if you are in the Instagram world. We have Car, who is an expert at everything Instagram. So she's worked with some big heavy hitters like Apple, Michael Kors, and Google, just to name a few, to help them with their Instagram strategies and Instagram growth. So if you're trying to increase your organic growth or generate more value from Instagram, today's your lucky day. So we're going to go over all of that. We'll cover things like building an Instagram, which Car did 45,000 followers in 10 months, as well as spinning up products and services of high value in the coaching space, paid memberships, and courses. So Car, thank you so much for joining and really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Great. So I want to start off because nobody on the podcast listening, or they might know who you are, but I still want to give everybody a chance. How do you usually introduce yourself at a party or something? What do you say you do? What's kind of like your value prop that you give people to kick off conversations?
I'm giggling because I always don't like to talk about, I never want to start with, what do you do? And
Nobody
but
does.
I would say that I am a social media strategist and my expertise is primarily Instagram. And I work with a variety of small business owners, entrepreneurs, agencies, and large brands to help them use Instagram strategically to grow their businesses.
Fantastic. Well, that's very polished, actually, compared to most.
Oh,
wow. That's awesome. And then taking a little bit of a look of kind of how you got started, it seemed like it was a bit of a sink or swim situation. What sort of made you realize that growing an Instagram following was going to unlock kind of like all these opportunities and all this, financial freedom for you? What kind of, if you want to go into the story, go for it. But what was what was the main thing that made you realize, hey, I need to grow this following on Instagram?
Yeah, it's funny because I never actually thought, hey, I need to grow a following. It was more like, hey, I have so much knowledge that I can share with people. How can I do it in a way that will get me 1 or 2 clients? So I was thinking like very small scale. And the reason I even started going on Instagram and posting reels and content was because I had just been laid off at my job as head of social for a startup because it was the start of COVID, March 15th. I had a baby, my first child. So I had no choice but to just kind of figure out, how am I going to get some money coming in, doing something that I really like, that I'm really good at? And along came Reels. So I started to create Reels. Just honestly, if you go to my account, you'll see they're pretty awkward. I've left them up there on purpose because everybody starts somewhere. And I was just giving people seemingly random tips about how to grow on Instagram, how to increase their SEO on their website, how to work with influencers. It was a hot mess. And the next thing I knew, I started looking at the data, getting really refined about just talking about Instagram, creating reels, and things kind of just took off from there.
It sounds like you already had a little bit of a background in this, but how did you sort of grow your first sort of like 5,000 to 10,000 followers? Because I know the starting point is usually the hardest. So how did you sort of break through that and then, go on to obviously compound that into so much more?
Yeah. So for timeline context, I started really like all in with this account around the end of December, early January 2021. And by 1st of March, I had 1,168 followers, wrote it down. And at the end of March, I had 10,000. And I attribute that really in part to Reels, as well as, coming up with very clear content strategy and collaborating and showing up on the app every single day. And my background is in social media and in marketing. I got my marketing start working for the United Nations World Food Program as one of the founding members of their app called Share the Meal. And so I was really fortunate there to honestly wear every single hat I was doing not just social media, including YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but I was also doing all of our celebrity partnership management, a lot of PR, and production, everything under the sun. So all of that knowledge really helped me come to the table really prepared to talk about a variety of things that weren't just tips and tricks or hacks to grow your Instagram. I had this kind of larger story to tell, which I really feel helped.
Interesting. Okay. And so boiling it down, it's good content, consistency, and then probably good timing with the introduction of Reels. Because I know anybody who's listening, if there is ever a new feature to roll out, always try and use that as much as possible. Because I do feel like the platforms favor their new features to get adoption. But what's your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think that you're spot on. I think anyone that's saying who grew out their following by any kind of large amount in 2021 would be lying if they told you that Reels wasn't a huge factor to that. Without giving myself credit, that is a huge player. But showing up consistently, I hate that word because it gets overused. Like coming up with a schedule that works for you, whether that means 3 times a week or 5 times a week, whatever your goals are for that app, then you should be showing up. And early adoption for features is always really gold. Unfortunately, I feel like there isn't a big standout feature like Reels that is in that position to skyrocket people's growth these days. And Reels is becoming very saturated, very competitive, seemingly feels like reach might be down, contrary to what Instagram tells us. It does feel down. The data actually says it's down. And so it is a lot harder these days.
Yeah, until the next big feature comes out.
Yeah, like what's that going to be?
I think a lot of the big announcements was talking about augmented reality posts and that sort of stuff. And then obviously all this AI stuff that's happening, who knows where that's going to go, but we can talk about that later. And so just to circle back, so you built that following. That following created a great opportunity for you to start monetizing, all of this work that you've been putting in. What was sort of the revenue streams that you set up? What was the order of them? And what's the importance of each one?
Yeah, when I first started, so before I hit those kind of 10K followers, before I had 1,000 followers, I was only offering coaching calls. So basically I would sell like a bundle of 3 calls. And in February, I made less than $1,000. And then in March and April, I was hitting $20,000 months just off of those bundled calls. So I lost my voice, really quickly realized that this was not sustainable, not a great business model. And just through honestly meeting other entrepreneurs, other women on Instagram that became friends and took me under their wing in other niches and industries, I realized I had to create a course. And so I created a course called The Power of Reels, which netted me over $100,000 pretty quickly, teaching people the foundations of Reels, how to edit, how to come up with ideas and so forth. And so then all of a sudden I sort of had a more robust product suite. I started adding to that by doing digital downloads, content calendar template, and I kept expanding from there, doing beta programs where I would live coach and then create that into an evergreen model. And up until today, I now have a membership called the Social Department where I do live office hours and coaching for a group of women.
That's really cool. And so that was the sort of order. It was one-on-one coaching, then it was the course, then it was the membership.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously thrown into there, I was surprised that a lot of brands started reaching out to me directly. And so there was some partnership income included in that, as well as speaking engagements. So all of this was coming inbound just through showing up on video. People were discovering me. I started to actually get some press, and that led to more opportunities as well for speaking engagements that were paid.
And I know you said a lot of this was inbound, but for someone who's just getting started, how do you think they should approach building their credibility? Because, you get that inbound from generating the credibility of, mostly being seen on Instagram probably and creating great content. But what would you suggest to someone getting started in kind of building the credibility to generate that inbound? Or would you suggest that they do outbound and actually do go and outreach to brands, speaking events, that sort of thing to build the credibility? What would
Yeah,
you say? Because it's kind of
both.
chicken or the egg.
I think both. And if you can do them in parallel, but let's say to start, the number one thing I see most people not doing or not doing enough is talking about their past experience, their wins, things that they've, done in their career that create that foundation for success. And so I think talking about what it is that you've built or done or created in the past, your founder story,
Mhm.
incorporating that into your content strategy and doing it often is really, really important. I mean, I, for example, have my founder story where, I was 9 months pregnant, lost my job. And then 10 months later, I had a 6+ figure business on Instagram. And whenever I tell that story to my audience, I get new leads, new clients, new engagement and community being like, oh my God, I had no idea that was your
Mm.
story. And I always feel surprised by that because I do talk about it a lot and I mention it
Mhm.
on all of my surfaces. And that I think is really important to remember is that, Instagram is not pushing your content to everybody. And it's only a small fraction of your audience that actually is seeing and reading your stuff. So
Mm.
talk about it all the time. And on the outbound engagement, I used to do partnership strategy and management. So that is also something that I love to do. I don't have time for it anymore. I've luckily been able to bring somebody on to do that for me now. But in the early days,
Mhm.
I definitely, create a hit list. Who are those dream brands that you want to work with? Go and take a look at the people that they're already collaborating with. What's the type of content that's drawing them in to, actually
Mhm.
pay those creators? And how can you start creating your own spin on using their products, for example, and getting their attention? And I think in the early days, absolutely tag those brands, create content. If I'm using this Yeti mic, like I'm going to show it, I'm going to tag it. Maybe I
Mhm.
find the contact at Yeti and send them that reel where I show their product to show them what I'm capable of.
Mm. Okay, interesting. So a little bit of a mix, really. You need to kind of do both, I think, in this day and age. Um, okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And then I know you mentioned the organic reach. Now, everything always starts out amazing, and then slowly, as these bigger platforms need to start showing some profits,
Yes.
the organic reach starts reducing, and the push for them encouraging you to use paid increases. So, to my understanding, they kind of show it to a small percent, like a few percentage points of your following. Then, if it does well, it keeps going to the next percentage. Is that sort
Yep.
of how it works, or how do they? Like, I know nobody knows the exact answer, but what's your best guess at how that kind of works and how people can better position their content to hopefully reach as much of their own audience as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you explained it pretty spot on. It'll show your content to a small segment of your existing audience. If it's a reel, might push it out to an audience that isn't following you. Same with your non-real content, right? It could be on Explore page. And if that content performs well, meaning does it get engagement like likes, saves, comments, shares, follows, uh, Instagram will then show your content to a larger segment, and so forth.
Mhm.
So yeah. Sorry, I forgot the
Yeah.
second part of your question.
No. I think that was what the main thing that we wanted to ask. And then the other thing was, I know that they're all these social media platforms are pushing towards like a for you section. So it's like people who are not following who might have content you like. Is that an opportunity, or is that just creating more competition, do you think?
Well, I think when we think about the For You section on Instagram, that's really the Explore page. And recently, meaning in the last year, Instagram has been trying to show us new accounts in our home feeds. So that
Mm.
was probably last summer when that whole make Instagram again thing went out. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I
Basically,
remember
Instagram
Kim
was like,
Kardashian complained about it.
yeah, the Kardashians, the Kendall, the Jenners, whatever. But the point was that Instagram was trying to mimic what TikTok is so successful at, was predicting the
Hmm.
next content that we wanted to see from people that we aren't already following. But it got it so dead wrong because it was just relying on obviously AI and its algorithms. But since then, they have improved that sort of push of content that we are discovering and made it a lot better, in my opinion, because
Hmm.
when I'm in the home feed now, I actually do see accounts that I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember following this account, but it's actually content that I'm interested in. So I think that they've
Mm,
done a good job in refining that kind of for you experience directly natively in the home feed. And
hmm
I do think it is an opportunity for creators and brands. And specifically, I think if we have one takeaway from this, like what should you be doing to get noticed on the explore page or on the home feed? If we're thinking strictly about the explore page, where you see, a big grid with all of these different content types, meaning reels and photos and different accounts, you should really be thinking there about your branding. So thinking about using consistent colors, maybe you have a branded icon, doesn't have to be your logo or your watermark every single time,
mm,
but using large fonts, using pictures or video of humans, all of those things work really well to stand out in the explore feed.
mm. No, great tips. That's really nice. Because yeah, when you're creating a personal account versus a brand account, I feel like not that many people think about developing a personal brand with like, colors, font styles, and that sort of thing, and keeping that consistent. Whereas if you go to
Yeah.
your website, you're really spot on with your personal branding. Like everything
Oh,
is
thanks.
very
It's
well
all
organized.
very thought out. And I think that's also actually something we're talking about. In the early days, I had a palette, I had fonts, and I was doing everything myself, right? I'm not saying go and spend tens of thousands of dollars working with an agency. Like just
Hmm
do it yourself. Go into Canva, use Adobe, whatever you can, do yourself, do it and stay really consistent with it. And I've even rebranded, I believe twice now, and there is still that brand recognition because it is so consistent.
mm No, awesome. Great points. And then looping back to the paid membership. So
Mhm.
I know one of the hardest parts of paid memberships is getting it started, like getting your first few members. So how did you sort of get it started? And then what do you sort of include in your paid membership that is valuable enough that you're kind of retaining people month after month?
So I think that's something that surprised me as an entrepreneur, small business owner, was that a lot of my income comes from repeat customers. And
Hmm
so I would say start with your existing clients, your existing pool or your email list, and write to them in a really personal way. So maybe for me, what really moved the needle was actually taking the time in the beginning to write to each individual client and say, hey, just so you know, it's been whatever, 3 months since we'd last worked together. Here's what I just created. And I wanted to know if you're interested in it. And so when it came to launch my membership about a year ago, I used that similar strategy going after people that had already worked with me, offering them first access, founders pricing. That was really key. So
hmm
making it a really no brainer. We hear people talking about this all the time, like, what's a no brainer offer? Like, it's literally that. It's like, it's so good that you're like, whoa, like, it's only this much. Or she's also
hmm
including a 2 hour call with her on top of everything I'm getting, right? So I created this really juicy, no brainer offer where I literally had
hmm
people in my DMs being like, wait, you're giving us all of that for this much? And I was like, yeah, wait a minute. This is too good. But that's how I got my first 65 members into my
Okay.
membership. And then I think another thing that really helped me, my retention rate for my membership is above 80%. And it's been around
Mm,
for over a year and a bit now, so a year and a half. And I keep reiterating. So talking to my members
mhm,
constantly. So getting into the DMs with them, sending them voice notes, actually doing market research with them. So getting on calls, either myself or my VA, understanding where there's gaps in my program or
mhm,
maybe where they've been disappointed. And I recommend actually getting somebody that isn't you to do these calls because you'll realize that people will feel a lot more comfortable telling somebody else the negatives or things that they'd rather
yeah,
see instead of like to you because they like you and they want
mhm,
to be within your program. So
yeah,
that was really helpful, right? So getting in the DMs, talking to your clients, doing market research, and I think also not being afraid to make changes in real time and launch things when they're like 80% baked.
mm, yeah, yeah. I think there's some amazing value there, especially with the anonymous surveys or anonymous calls. I think those are great because I I think possibly too many people feel like the paid membership is kind of like set and forget. The members will engage with each other and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And it's
So
not true. It's actually, I think the membership is one of the more difficult products. And I just can't stand all of the marketing that you hear out there that's like, do passive income, launch a membership, like set it and forget it. Like, they'll never look at their income statement because it's only $29 a month. And it's like, oh my God, you'd be surprised. I actually 4x the price of my membership since I started. I launched it. And the reason for that is because I want people that do care about the fact that they're paying for something, because I want people to get results. And there was no point in having people in there paying me $59 a month because they never came. It just wasn't a barrier enough, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And so for your membership structure, you do live calls, like once a week, and then
twice a month, bi-weekly.
And then you obviously have some sort of community. Do you use a tool for all of this?
Yeah, so I used to host everything on a community platform called Podia, and I really liked it, but it was really missing my community feature. And I was kind of like segmented all over the place. I had all the course materials because it was like set up like a course at the time in Podia. Then I had my Facebook group, which a lot of people didn't join because they hated Facebook. Same here. And so I was finding like there was just like fragments. And then we had my email list where we would send updates. And so I've recently just moved everything onto the Circle platform. And there I've got a full suite of all my products, paywalls. So anybody can join my Circle community, get access to a bunch of free content, freebies, trainings, templates. There's a chat and it's really engaged. And then they can decide if they want to upgrade and join the membership. And there's various tiers of the membership that they can join at.
Got it. Okay, great. So it's like a free section and then they can upgrade to the paid section. The paid section is access to your calls, extra content. The community also chats with each other. I take it kind of similar to a Facebook group. That's really cool.
Guest experts, tutorials, and a whole actual directory where people can connect and network. And it's just so much more fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I feel like with the memberships, you do have to kind of keep improving it to retain those people, because if it's just a course or if it's just content you don't update, they'll just consume it all and then bounce once they finish consuming it.
Absolutely. And that's also been a learning curve for me, is thinking I want to give people so much value and give them everything they need to be successful, but then realizing that too much can be overwhelming and then they just won't do anything. And so I think dripping content out and thinking about, how can you make things more bite-sized? Maybe instead of uploading a 70-minute training, upload it into sections. So like if I've got 15 minutes on my lunch break or when I'm picking up my kid, I can pop that on and then, get something out of that.
Really interesting. No, it's amazing. There's not that many successful memberships. So I feel like when you run into someone who's made it really successful, they're doing something right, because it's one of the harder ones to do. And I know it's the holy grail passive income, but it is actually one of the harder income streams to build up, I think.
Wow.
I think usually the one-on-ones and the consulting is kind of like the easiest starting point. And then a lot of people move to kind of like the courses. And then as you kind of did, the membership last, I think a lot of other people follow that path, because then they also have an audience to then go and pitch that membership to once they've got the courses and the clients.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, one big question that a lot of people have when they're trying to set all of this up is, at what point do I build a course and what pricing should I put that at? What's the tipping point between going from kind of like a consultant or a one-to-one into one-to-many?
Yeah, good question. And I don't even think I'm the right person to necessarily answer that, because I've just been experimenting as I go. And what I did, so here's what I recommend, and what I did is take a look at the other offers out there that might be perceived as similar to yours. And I say perceived because a lot of people say, oh, well, you've got a membership, so does that Instagram coach. And I'm like, well, it's actually completely different, right? So if they're charging $37 a month and I'm charging $199 a month, the transformation there is going to be much bigger and different, there's going to be a lot more accountability on my side. So that was strategic in part on my end, was making it premium, because that transformation that I'm offering is really quite significant. And so for me, finding that balance was all about putting the membership, still making it the lowest priced item available to work with me because it's in a group setting. And that was how I went about structuring it. And I just keep playing with it, to be honest. And, I asked that question as well in my market research. So I recently just spoke before my previous launch. I open the doors every 3 months. So I was talking to my members again, actually just a couple of weeks ago, and price was one of the questions we asked them. And nobody said anything about that price point. They were all like, yep, that's fine. So I was like, oh, I got to increase it.
Means you're doing a good job. Yeah. Got to increase it until they say no. If you don't get a few no's, it's too cheap. Okay, that's great. And then just to wrap up with final few questions. One, obviously a lot of your expertise, a lot of your structure is built on Instagram. Have you diversified? What's your thoughts on kind of the future of Instagram and then the future of social media and where that's all going?
Oh man, I'm like, this is a heavy week for me on social, so I'm going to get a real answer. But I think it's interesting because I'm known as an Instagram coach and expert, and that's really where I feel the most comfortable. I haven't had time to fully explore TikTok on my own, believe it or not. It's something that's kind of there on the side, but I'm hesitant. Don't ask me why yet. And then YouTube, again, like I know exactly how to use it. Once again, very much like not something I've had time to go into. That being said, I have fully grown people on all of those channels. I know how all of them work, and I feel super confident calling myself a social media strategist in that sense. Where do I think Instagram is going? I think that Instagram is going through a sort of reckoning, an identity crisis, so to speak. And I think that they've come out of the really hole that they had dug themselves into probably a year ago. They're coming out of it slowly. But I personally, and I'm seeing this across the board with other creators, especially larger creators. I don't even consider myself a large creator, by the way. I think I'm quite micro. But anyone with like over 200,000 followers that I follow, everyone is still feeling very much like, what's the point of this all? When you give so much every single day, you're creating unique, entertaining, inspirational, educational content. You're giving so much away for free. And then not only do you have the algorithms to supposedly battle or the changes in the apps to battle, but you also have audiences that I feel have become so accustomed to getting free everything that they start to wear on your mental health, as does the natural human condition of comparing yourself to everybody out there and always wondering like, oh, like, why not me? Or is this enough? Or should I be making more money? Should I have more followers? Should I have more views? And I think the strongest minds and the strongest, most confident people have a difficulty with this. And so I don't know what the answer is in terms of the future for Instagram, but I think that they've got to find a better way to, how do you say, like, treat the creators better to make us feel like it's worth it to be on that platform.
Yeah. I think YouTube did a pretty good job at this. They shared a lot of wealth with a lot of creators, and they did it right. I think Instagram kind of was a little bit greedy and kind of used the content creators a lot for their own ad revenue, whereas Google kind of shared it a little bit more.
Yeah, with YouTube.
And I know Instagram tried to kind of create those sort of similar opportunities and create the similar programs, but they didn't really get known for it, and it was kind of a little bit too late. But I think they're really going to have to push that to keep people engaged. Who knows where TikTok's going to go, if it's even going to be in America or not. Nobody knows. But yeah, I feel like they're going to have to really start leveling the playing field. Like, you can see that they're aggressively going after checkouts on Facebook and Instagram. I think they'll probably also try and release the paid memberships and all that sort of stuff. I think they already might have rolled that out in Facebook, but not Instagram.
Yeah, they've got the memberships on Instagram. I think you're right. I think it's going to ultimately lead to revenue sharing.
Mm, yeah. Well, it works really well for Google,
Yeah.
but yeah, now all of the AI has come out. Google search is in danger, so they might
Oh
change their
man,
stance.
the AI stuff terrifies me, and I'm using it. Like I've recently started using ChatGPT. I'm looking
Hmm.
at other kind of programs for other things in my business, and it terrifies me nonetheless.
What are you using it for at the moment? Like what have you
So
found the most useful use cases?
I recently joined an agency in New York as a consultant, so doing strategy for them. And I have found that because I'm creating so many presentations, that I
Mm,
need a way to really summarize thoughts. And, if I have like something I've written in the past or an email, because I've got so much content that I've created that
hmm
I need to put it into really digestible bullets. I'm using ChatGPT for that. So it's making my presentation process super quick and
mm,
streamlined. I'm also just like asking it random questions, like give me examples of 5 Instagram accounts that focus on parenting. So stuff like
mm,
that.
yeah.
Um, with the research side. And then most recently, I'm looking into something that helps you write SEO optimized blog posts.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know, I feel like there's a new AI tool every day coming out right now. But
Yeah. Are you using anything?
yeah, we use a lot of it. Because we have a range of businesses, so they all vary. But repetitive tasks using
Yeah.
that for product descriptions, planning out content calendars, writing emails, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of it that we use it for.
Amazing.
But yeah, it still hasn't quite got the functionality of executing things for you.
Right.
It's good for research and summary and that sort of stuff, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of like surface level. I really want to see it go in the direction of like I give it a task and it actually goes and completes the entire task.
Oh, yeah. And
Um,
I'm sure that's going to come.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, then you're gonna have to share your logins with them, which is the scary part.
That's the scary part.
Right, well, Kat, this has been amazing. You've shared so much value. Really appreciate it. Yeah, awesome tips and advice on Instagram. Also, running a business. Out of that opportunity. So let us know what you're currently working on, where you can find out more. We'll include a few links as well, but let us know what you're working on.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not working on anything right now for the first time in a long time, and I'm really loving it. I just had like a super heads down uh last quarter, and so now I'm in like execution mode. I'm doing all the stuff that I had been planning.
Mm,
But you can come and join my circle community called the Social Department, and if you want to join the membership, come join the membership. If you're looking to grow your business, and I say business because I don't just mean followers, I mean like revenue and
hmm
get more clients finding you on social, come join the membership, come join the group chat. Even if you don't want to pay, come and
hmm
just ask your questions and meet people.
Yeah. I highly suggest also checking out Car's website. She's got a bunch of free stuff on there for content planning and hashtag strategies, that sort of stuff. If you're just getting started, obviously, if you're more advanced and you need a little bit more juicy stuff, check out the courses and the memberships because yeah, they look great. But yeah, Car, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.